Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Game of Gymnastics podcast. This week, I'm joined by Bryony Page, a triple Olympic medalist and world and Olympic champion on trampoline. We'll talk about how she got into the sport and describes trampolining and one of the biggest competitions that she's done to date being at the Birmingham Worlds 2023 and how she dealt with having a home crowd. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Bryony. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate a gymnast from the men's artistic to talk to a trampolinist. So thank you.
All good. I've been trying to branch out and get into all the different disciplines. So obviously one of the Olympic disciplines is going to be high on the priority list. And obviously you are one of the go-tos for trampolining, 100%. So why don't you talk us through a little bit about how you got into trampolining in the first place?
Yeah. So my parents, especially my dad, quite sporty. So I tried out lots of different sports and activities when I was younger: football, tennis, dance, you name it. I probably have tried it. Maybe I could have tried skiing, but I was a little bit too young because we used to live in the States and they had some snow where we first started. Anyway, so started gymnastics because a friend from dance did gymnastics. And when I was playing football, I actually was just running around and doing cartwheels on the grass. So it kind of made sense to start gymnastics. And I remember the first gymnastics session, my dad took me and just asked how do we get involved? So it wasn't like we'd set up a session or anything. We went to the gymnastics club to kind of see what it was like. And how do we get involved? And they said, just join in this session. So I kind of joined in mid-session. And then they were at the rope and I climbed up to the top of the rope and they were like, that doesn't normally happen. I kind of got to the top and I was like, how do I get down now? I had absolutely no fear. And just love to climb around and just, I guess, do gymnastics-y stuff before even starting gymnastics classes. And then, because that was in America, when we moved to England, there was a new gymnastics centre that we went to. There was a trampoline squad. So when I was doing my gymnastics classes, I was watching the trampoline squad train and I was absolutely in awe of how high people jumped and all of the somersaults that we're doing. And at the end of the gymnastics session, we'd get 5 minutes on a trampoline, which meant 1 or 2 goes just bouncing literally from one end to the trampoline to the other end onto a mat and sticking the landing. So just straight jumping, maybe a few shapes in the middle. And I just loved the feeling of it. And I wanted to try out a whole hour, a whole session. I was like, Mum and Dad, can I try out trampoline? It looks like a lot of fun. So I had a few sessions that I tried out for the squad, just the local squad there. So I could do more hours and made the team. So it meant that I was able to enter competitions and try new stuff and do more hours, and just absolutely fell in love with it straight away and still do, but thankfully.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't, then you wouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't still be going.
Yeah, definitely would have finished if I wasn't enjoying it by now.
Yeah, 100%. So was there a sort of point in your training and your journey where you sort of realized that you could actually do this sort of professionally?
I don't even know where the switch happened in terms of, am I really professional? It's more, I guess, taking it seriously. I took it seriously and enjoyed it right from the start. I wanted to see how good I could get. I wanted to progress and learn the next skill. I wanted to compete. I wanted to progress through the levels. So I kind of took it seriously right from the beginning, but also had fun with it. And I still do. I still have fun with it and still take it seriously at the same time. I think in terms of when I realized that the Olympics was a realistic goal was in 2010 when I entered my first World Championships. I didn't ever make it into a world age team as a junior. So my first World Championships was as a senior, 19 years old, and just competing there and making the team was a struggle to make the team. And I kind of got a little bit lucky really to make the team. So I was the 4th member. It was a definite 4th member of the team. I just ended up doing the routines I kind of just was really happy with my routines. And I was in the first or second flight and I was just waiting to see where I would finish. And I remember sitting next to my boyfriend at the time, my ex-boyfriend now, and just saying, that person's really good. She's gone to these Olympics. She's done this. She's got this medal at a World Cup. She's synchronized champion at all the different things. She's definitely going to beat me. So don't worry if she beats me. I know that's going to happen. And then sometimes that when I was explaining those people, they ended up going underneath me. So I was going up the ranks and I was getting closer and closer to like the end of the competition. I was like, oh my God, am I going to make the final? Am I going to make the final? I was like, but in the last flight, we've got this person, she's done this, she's done that, like all my idols, and ended up like getting into the final. And in the final, I remember like marching out, and just the women that I was competing with were honestly like, we had Olympic champions, world champions, European champions, multiple Olympians, and I'm just there like on my first world championships, like, hey. And absolutely feel like this was the most amazing feeling in the world, that competing against my idols, competing with them. And then just all, because there was no expectations on me, I just wanted to do my best. And I did the best routine I possibly could in that moment. Everything kind of came together, ended up finishing 4th, and I was over the moon. Like I still look back at it now, I'm like, I never think, oh, wouldn't it have been amazing if I finished 3rd on the podium? I'm still like, I finished 4th at that competition, and like I was so proud and happy with that. And because I was 4th amongst people that were my idols and had gone to multiple Olympics and medaled, that's when I kind of thought, maybe this dream of mine is actually something that can be a realistic goal, and it should believe in myself now. So, and that was 2 years out from the London Olympics. So yeah, it was quite far into my journey that I felt like it wasn't a silly dream, and actually felt like I could try and make it. I do remember the dream being kind of, before that moment, like worried about dreaming about going to the Olympics, because like, oh, I don't want to go in case I mess up. Like as if that was, oh, I don't want to do that in case I mess up. Whereas like as you kind of get through the sport and you learn about competing and you learn about like, but becoming an Olympian is a massive achievement in itself. Going and giving it your best shot is something to aspire to, not worry about messing up when you get there. So yeah, that was 2010 was when I first thought maybe I could become an Olympian.
That's really cool. We'll go into the sort of Olympic experience in a bit, but first off, how would you describe trampoline as a discipline?
Fun. It's just like fun and difficult, challenging, absolutely insane. I think like when you're on the trampoline, I like to describe it as driving your own roller coaster. So if you've ever been on a roller coaster and you get like kind of thrown around, and you've got the G-forces going through your body and your face, and you're spinning, you're twisting, you're accelerating. It's kind of like that, but you're driving it, and you've got to try and make it perfect, and you've got to find your way through that track, and know when to put the accelerator on, when to, like, as if the roller coaster has an engine, you've got to like work out when to do that, when to do the twists and turns. And then sometimes you've got your eyes shut and you're not in the real, but like you don't always spot everything. So you've got to feel it, and you've got to make your guesses. And I think that's like what makes it exciting. And you just do it over and over and over again until you perfect that course. And then you make, you adjust it, and you add an extra loop to loop, or add an extra corkscrew. And it's you're trying to make it the most exciting roller coaster and the most difficult to kind of navigate. So with trampoline, it's, you want to try and jump as high as you possibly can. You want to put as much difficulty into the routine, which means adding more somersaults, adding more twists, adding more pike or straight shapes, so straight legged positions. You gain more for that because they're hard to spin around. And you want to still perfect it and make it as the judges can score it well. You want to hit the code of points and execute it as perfect as you can. Never, perfection doesn't exist on our sport, not really. Just want to kind of hit the code of points. And stay in the middle of the trampoline. That's always good. Don't want to fall off. And yeah, you've just got to focus. There's so much to it. The feeling of weightlessness at the top of the bounce is amazing. The feeling of spinning and rotating really fast is amazing. The fact that like our bodies, I think that's what's different to gymnastics, or what people perceive it to be different, is that, oh, it's a softer landing. I'm like, yes, but when you go from maximum height, where we're 10 plus meters in the air, and you hit the trampoline, it sinks in, but when it hits the bottom of where it's like it's gone all the way down and it's just about to go up, that's a hard surface, and you've got forces going down and forces pushing up against you. So at that point, you're like 15 times our body weight, and it's unstable, and your feet are twisted, in the wrong position. And so it's a lot on the body, and gymnastics is incredible, and the forces that go through your body as well, but so is trampoline. I like to watch people and think what their bodies are going through, like especially the men. Like when you watch the trampoline, when they're jumping, they're like almost hitting the floor through the trampoline because there's so much force going through it. And if you're stood on it with no bouncing, you're maybe a few centimeters depressed. So yeah, it's an exciting sport. And that was a long answer. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. It was a good answer. Obviously, we were talking on Saturday. It was the day of the comp. About sort of trampolining and obviously tumbling because Megan was there as well, and the sort of precision that is needed, because obviously you've talked about a lot there. There's a lot of things to be thinking about, and you're doing double, triple somersaults, trying to stay in the middle, and you're trying to land completely upright, because if you're even a couple of degrees off, you're off the trampoline. What is it like trying to navigate all of that all at the same time? Like, how do you mentally sort of do it?
Yeah, okay. So I guess like our routine is 10 skills long in a row. And so the difficulty comes in not just learning each skill separately, but learning how to link the skills together. And you're trying to put as much difficulty in as possible. So then generally your 10 hardest skills that you can try and fit into that routine. And you might have some in the background that you haven't quite got good enough to put in, but they're 10 really difficult skills. You've got to link them. So you've got to like adjust the speed, and you've got to spot the ending of the skill to still prepare for the next skill, and adjust your body within that 0.3 of a second in the trampoline to try and stay strong, but also add the power in for the next skill without traveling too far. And so it's a lot of like focus and practice. It's just like getting the timing of the trampoline, lots of different drills when you're younger with lots of different skills and vision points and technique and strength. And so everything kind of in that moment, and you've got a 20-second routine you've got to stay focused for, let the body do the automatic stuff that it can do, but you've also got to be aware to make those adjustments. And you've got to make it look good as well. So you've got to make it look good and then hide the mistakes that you might need to adjust to be able to push the trampoline in the right way. And it is like literally a split moment, or you've got distracted slightly because you're thinking about the skill that you've just done, or you've not done enough training for a certain skill, or you're not fit enough, whatever it is, that's one little tiny mistake in that trampoline can like send you off the trampoline. So it's like beam accuracy, because although the beam is like however many inches wide, how you maybe get 2 meters, 1 meter in the air, 2 meters in the air max. So whereas on the trampoline you're like 10 meters in the air, and the trampoline, it's big, but it's an unstable surface and it can literally ping you off at any moment. You've just got to like work it around, and stay strong and do that. So it's an exciting sport and there's lots to it, but at the same time, I've been doing it for 26 years. And even though like I said, I've been doing it 26 years, and if I'm doing one skill, it's every single time it's slightly different. And I must have done hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of like a certain skill now. And every single time it's just that little bit different. You've got to adapt in a different way. And it's just learning how to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with sort of gymnastics as a whole. Like, you will never, ever do even like one skill that you do 1,000 times. You will never do it the exact same way twice.
Like
it will always be like minute differences, like say on parallel bars or something, like doing the Diamondov, like you swing forwards, let go of one arm, do a full turn, catch and handstand. The hand won't be in the exact same place. Your body shape won't be the exact same. Your legs won't be the exact same. Like,
you might be looking somewhere different.
Yeah, exactly.
You might be feeling different.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you might be slightly hungry, or you might need the toilet, or it's the Friday instead of a Monday, and you have your weekend. You've had to recover, and Friday you're more fatigued, and so even if it looks the same from an outside eye, it might feel completely different.
Yeah.
So, based on how your body feels.
100%. So what's kept you interested in competing in trampolining for such a long time?
I was obsessed with it. So as a kid, I love the feeling. I think you can get that. I love the feeling of spinning through the air and trampolining. And I like learning new skills, more so when I was younger and had a bit less fear. But I love to challenge myself, learn that next skill, try and achieve it, and know what a certain skill that I want to achieve, what it would feel like. So I can visualize it and I'll be like, oh, that's what it would feel like. But actually doing it is different, and you want to know what it feels like. And I guess to keep it interesting is just always wanting to try and improve, learn that next skill. And I don't quite feel like I've I'm getting very close, but I don't feel like I've quite hit my like absolute limit of what I can do on the trampoline. One of the dreams of mine was from when I learnt the skill on its own when I was a teenager, the half move up drift. So it's a backward skill. You you take off backwards, you twist, half twist, then you end up rotating forwards for 3 somersaults and twist, half twist at the end, so you end up facing the same way. Um, and I wanted to add that into my routine internationally in the vault, so in the hard routine, which is now the only routine you compete. And so since doing it, learning it as a teenager, um, and competing it domestically, to compete internationally took a lot. Like the just finding the time, my body, being able to do it. Yeah, just having the opportunity to compete internationally. Never really had that until 2023, where I was able to compete at World Cup and then at the World Championships. And it was just like a dream of mine to do that. So how old was I then? 32. So I was from a late teen to being 32. It took me a long time to be able to achieve that personal goal of mine. So that's kind of kept me going until that point anyway. But there's still skills that I've learned, but I've never competed. I want to do that. And there's still certain competitions that I'd love to do. Like I love the fact that we've had the mixed synchro added in, because I never had that growing up, and it can compete with it alongside a man in synchronized event, which is amazing. I love the fact that they've added something else into trampoline. So to be able to do that last year with Zach at the World Championships was like really exciting, and can hopefully continue the mixed event into the next few years as well. So there's just still things that I want to be part of and I want to try, and so I'm just curious to see how much I can do on the trampoline before I decide I've had enough.
Fair enough.
I don't know if I'll ever have enough, but I might like move on into using trampoline in a different way.
So you mentioned 2023 Worlds there. That was obviously in Birmingham. Talked a little bit about that on the weekend. What was that experience like? Because you mentioned that was one of the highlights of your career. What was that specific experience like? We'll go into the Olympics afterwards, because obviously they're, in the eyes of many, the bigger competitions. But what was it about that one that stood out to you above even the Olympic?
Yeah, it was a really dramatic competition. Lots going on. So the Olympics is just the individual event, and it's actually just the 2 rounds. So 3 routines. You do 2 rounds to qualify into the finals, and then it's a straight final. But for the World Championships, you have not only the individual trampoline event, which is 3 rounds. You've got a semi-final because you've got enough people to do that. But you also have the synchronized event. Now you have the mixed synchronized event, which didn't happen at 2023, didn't exist then. You also have the team event, and you're competing alongside the double mini athletes and the tumbling athletes. So it's a 4 discipline if you include synchronized trampoline as a separate one. And so there's also an all-around team event at the end, as well as a massive team that goes. So it's a really exciting competition. And for it to be a home championships was the most incredible experience eventually. So going in, I was really nervous about having a home crowd. I was like, it's going to be off-putting, it's going to be distracting, it's going to be extra pressure. People know me, it's going to be just really nervous about it, and couldn't really reframe that when I was talking to my sports psych. So I was like, we can't kid ourselves. It's going to be a challenge I'm not going to just suddenly enjoy it. But actually did end up enjoying it. And it was almost sudden. The home crowd went from something that I was worried about, to something that I really, really enjoyed. And it made the whole competition even more special. And it was my teammate, Laura Gallagher, who kind of said to me, she didn't have the competition that she wanted. So she hadn't made it through to the next round. And so she was like really feel grateful that, like I would have absolutely loved to compete again in front of the home crowd. I hope you feel like really grateful and just enjoy it and take it in. And hadn't really thought like about that before competing, in terms of, I know there's a home crowd and I want to use it as best as possible, but I don't really enjoy it until after competing. But this time it was like, why am I waiting until knowing how I've done? Actually, we get on the trampoline and we're announced to the audience and to the crowd. That's when they give a big cheer just for being there and giving us support. So got onto the trampoline for the finals day, a synchronized competition, speaking with Izzy, and Laura was actually spotting and matting, so I could see her as I was getting on the trampoline and they announced our names, and just the crowd going like gives me shivers now, just like it was so loud, so much support. And I was beaming. I was absolutely taking it in and smiling. And I hadn't even started like competing yet on that day. So it was just, I think that might have been one of the first times that, other than maybe the Olympics, that like really taking in that moment before a competition and enjoying it. Because I'm always like worried about how the competition is going to go. I want to focus in on that. And actually, I took that moment to take in the home crowd and then focus on what me and Izzy were about to do. And then we ended up doing a routine that we were really proud of. Made it onto the podium with the bronze medal, which was our first kind of World Championships medal for synchro. So it's like such a fantastic achievement. And then it's like on that day you go. For me, it was you compete synchro and then you go out the back, warm up individual, compete individual, go out the back, warm up the individual for the all around team event, compete, go back out the back. So it was literally the whole day. You're warming up, compete, warm up, compete, and sometimes even when you're competing, getting the medal, there's people warming up ready. So you're actually overlapping your time schedules. So it's a very busy day, very hectic, so dramatic, and it was just so exciting to have started a day with a medal already, knowing that like we'd achieved something and I'd got something to kind of take home with me, and personally, and actually then going into the final alongside Izzy again. So this is the bit where it's so super dramatic, was because going into the competition, we weren't even sure like whether I should go and compete or not. Very briefly had that conversation, and it was very quickly, yes, I will go and compete. But the reason why was because to qualify 2 spaces to the Olympics for the women, you had to have someone qualify in the top 3 women in the World Cup series rankings. So the World Cup series, you gain points as you go through and then you come up with this Olympic ranking list. And I was within that kind of top bracket. So I would have qualified that space because I'd won a competition and come second in a competition. So I'd got almost maximum points. And then to get the second space, you needed somebody to make it into the World Championships final. So, but if I had got into that final above Izzy, then we wouldn't have qualified 2 spaces. But if Izzy qualified into the final, then we had the potential of qualifying 2 spaces. So first of all, actually, Izzy was before me and she absolutely smashed it. She did an amazing routine and under the most intense pressure to hit that routine in the semi-final to get into the final. And she hit a really good routine. I did not hit a good routine. And I fell below her by like 0.05. So it's like really, really close. Like 0.05 is unreal for trampoline. It's basically come down to a split moment on your time of flight score. So I said to her in that moment, I was like, absolutely like amazing, well done. Like this gives us our best shot. I'm so proud of you. And then we had to wait for the rest of the competition to go to find out whether, because it was still not like, it was a questionable score whether it would make it into the final still, because it like, we weren't sure if it was going to be good enough. And so it came down to like literally the last 2 people. And so when the second to last person, we knew that Izzy had made the space, and I'm just there going, oh my God, like, please let me, it's fine. Cause I wanted to go in and win gold. Like that was my target for that year. I wanted to go in and I wanted to perform it in the World Championships final with a home crowd and win a medal and hope, try and win the gold. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I'm knocked out and I can't make it, but we've also qualified a second Olympic space potentially, like that's our biggest chance of doing it. So it was like this waiting to that last person, and then made it. I scraped in to 8th place because the 9th place person was 0.01.
Jeez.
So I was like, said to Izzy after, I was like, you could have given me some more breathing space like, for me to have slotted in into the final and below her.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because it was basically who qualified into the final.
Yeah.
Which whoever was in the lead would qualify that space for the country. So it was like literally a 0.06 gap. So like so dramatic. The fact that it was like so close that we had to wait the entire day to like wonder whether we were going to make it to the last 2 people. So it's like I said, Izzy was like, where are you? And I was like, I want to see you in person. I don't want to like say well done because I was like, let's see each other. And they like ran up, gave each other a hug, like cried, was like, we've just qualified this. This is like, so that's basically her qualifying herself to the Olympics as long as everything goes to plan. And same with with me for slotted in to get into the final. So for both of us to be, and that was her first World Championships final, for both of us to be in the final, it's amazing in front of a home crowd. She did a really lovely routine. I was going for my 3 triff. I remember saying to my coaches before, like the night before, I was like I've won a World Championships in 2021. I've won one before. I want to try and win this one, like the way I want to win it. I don't want to play it safe. Like I want to do my 3 triff routine. I want to do the triple triple. I've dreamt of this. It's in front of a home crowd. I'm going to have loads of adrenaline. I don't want to hold back. That was one of the problems that happened in the semi-final was I kind of played cautious and I played it safe and it just didn't. Luckily, my routine was good enough literally just to still make it into the final. But I was like, I don't want to play it safe. I know I need to use my adrenaline and go big. So compete like my in jumping so I know this won't mean much to you, so not trampolinist, but my arm set before I started my routine was my personal best arm set in a competition, and it was 1.96, which matches some of the men. Not like we're not talking the best men in the world, but it matches some of that. It was like that's really high, and I was like, oh my god, I must have been so like buzzed up, ready to go and compete. Like I must have had so much adrenaline, so much nerves to have been able to jump that high, and just so ready, like physically felt like ready. So yeah, to jump that high, and then I actually over-rotated my first skill, which is not what you want to do to go into the a half and about triff. I was really on my heels. So like one of my friends, ex-teammates and single partner, at one point, she sent through the video that she'd when she was watching it, and you hear her kind of gasp as I'm doing my first skill going, oh no, like, can I do it? And even Kat Short, who's works at PG now and gone to the Olympics for Rio and London, she was like, good job, you can make a tight shape. Otherwise, so it was there were lots of little mistakes in that routine, but because the difficulty was so much higher than everyone else, and I was jumping high and still managed to hold some execution as well. Like I think it was like 1.5 more difficult than the second competitor, like the second highest competitor in the difficulty score. So like it was a big routine, and I got to perform it in front of a crowd, a home crowd, and it was just the most amazing experience. And then to go from that, having won a medal in the synchro, having won the World Championships with the routine of my dreams in front of a home crowd, to then get to compete 2 more times, one in individual for the all around and one for the synchro for the all around. And we ended up getting a bronze medal for Great Britain. So like it was just like the most amazing day. I just loved it. I know that's again a very long answer, but like it's one of my favorite competitions to date. It's up there with the Olympics.
Awesome. And I'm sure, I mean, to be fair, I've heard from obviously Jaden, Megan about that World Championships. Sounds like the most like mental experience to have been a part of, and to have done it with all of the other sort of like event types under trampoline gymnastics.
Yeah.
Sounds quite special, because when you're in the Olympics, it's obviously just for the individual trampoline. How does that differ, and what's sort of your thought process going into that compared to when there's a real sort of team aspect to it?
As in like the difference between the individual event and the all around team event, where it's lots of
sort of, yeah.
I guess you have like maybe a little bit more pressure, because as well, the thing is that with tumbling and double mini tramp, they're also world leading, and like you don't want to let them down either. So it's not, and it's the only time that we get to kind of compete with each other from the different disciplines. So it's such a lovely vibe. Like I feel, even though you don't want to let anyone down and you feel like that pressure, no one's putting pressure on you. Everyone's supportive and they want you to do well. And each different discipline, you like cheer in a different way. So like tumbling, you're like yelling the entire time, like, go on, go on, like you want them to have as much power and force as possible. So you're like yelling as soon as they're running and they're doing any transition or anything, you're just like cheering them. DMT, you kind of just do it like on those 2 skills, and then you cheer for the landing, but not during the running. And then for trampoline, it's like you kind of stay relatively quiet unless something goes wrong, and then you're like, go for it. Like if you feel like, if you're looking at someone and they travel and you're not sure if they're going to hit the mat or not, but the audience can see, the supporters can see, they'll be like, go on. Like they know that you're not going to hit the mat, but also give you that kind of extra cheer to help you find that fight to go, because sometimes you're questioning whether it's going to be a crash or if it's like whether you should safely go for it. So like having that support in that moment in trampoline. So like you all kind of understand each other's disciplines, even though you don't do them all. There are some crazy people that do all of them, which is they're amazingly impressive. But I do not. I'm very bad at tumbling, and the DMG is a little bit scary. So like just to cheer them in a different way. And actually, when I kind of go for those, again, like I guess it was different because me and Izzy have done well in the synchro, so we're confident going into the final routine of the day because we've already kind of got used to the adrenaline and the crowd. So we know we can do it. So we have a bit more confidence based on what's happened. And for me individually, I have a bit more confidence. I wasn't going to go for my big routine because you're playing for a team, and in this case, actually playing it safe can be more helpful than risking everything, because it's not just for me, it's for other people. So I wasn't I'm going to risk everything because I've already won before, and I don't mind. Yeah. Whereas actually, like, we've got new people on the team, and this is like their chance to medal, so you don't want to let them down. So I was like, played a much safer routine. Actually, my legs buckled on one of the skills, so I got lost on my fourth skill, which was like, in that moment, you're like, oh, like you've got to keep focused, because if your legs buckle, like that is so tough on a trampoline to like good job, I can make a tight shape to spin. So like focusing is more kind of completion rather than giving everything to get those little point ones. You obviously want to do that if you can, but it is more focus on like completion and solid routine rather than outside your comfort zone to try and get the best. So, and then, just supporting the team around you. So you're kind of less in your own little bubble and more focused about what's going on. I'm like watching the competition to cheer for people and support them. So it's a little bit different in that way. And it's just lovely having everyone in that moment to share with you.
Yeah. I mean, that point about the like sort of cheering in different ways, I get like that sort of applies in artistic as well. Like on P-bar, high bar, you're only cheering specific points in the routine. Like when there's a release, you sort of say go on when you know it's a good one, like that sort of thing. But then vault, you're cheering them on like the whole way down the runway. So there's actually quite a few sort of parallels there. And then pommels, depending on the person, you sort of just stay a bit quiet, but only on like certain points when you think they're about to fall off, like that sort of thing.
And because it's like, is it more like
pommels is like,
is it sort of like beam of
that's what people often sort of compare it to. You have to be so precise with it, and like the slightest thing and you're off. And I think people normally cheer when there's like sort of a thing where you have to
lose the momentum.
Yeah, when you have to fight to stay on, when you have to like muscle it around, as opposed to when it's a good circle, when it's a solid routine, when you just swing in and you can't try too hard in those moments, because if you try too hard, then your shoulders go a bit too far and you're off. So there are definitely some sort of parallels between them. So talk us through your experiences at the Olympic Games over the years. So obviously you tried out for 2008. So what was that?
So
sadly, I will be leaving it there. I know that many of you will be wanting to hear more from Bryony about her Olympic experiences, but this was a long interview, so I will cut it into 2 parts, and that will come out shortly. However, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Game of Gymnastics podcast. Leave a comment below about who you want to see next. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, follow for more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.